You wake up every day believing you have control of your life. The alarm clock plays, the routine begins, and without realizing, you are already plunged into appointments, messages, obligations. It looks normal. It seems inevitable. But deep down, there is an uncomfortable feeling. A silent voice that asks if all this really makes sense. This restlessness you feel is not just tiredness or laziness. It is the echo of something much deeper. It is the call of your soul trying to show you that there is an invisible arrest around you. The lie that sustains this prison is subtle but powerful. She says, to be happy, you need more. More money, more recognition, more achievements, more objects, more followers, always more. This idea is repeated so many times that it has become natural, like the air we breathe. But what no one realizes is that this air is poisoned. The more you inspire this lie, the more suffocated you feel. Stop a moment and look at your life. How many times have you believed happiness would come when you got something? When I bought that house, that car, that cell phone, when I had that job, that body, that relationship, and in fact, maybe for a few days you have felt a wave of pleasure. But soon she dissolved, and a larger void took over. So the mind said, it wasn't that yet, something else is missing, and you ran again, always believing that the next achievement would be the definitive. This race has no finish line. She was created to never end. This is the perfect arrest because there is no jailer. There are no visible grids. What keeps you stuck is your own belief. You become a watchman and prisoner at the same time, and that is what makes this lie so dangerous. Look around. Everything around you was designed to reinforce this illusion. Social networks show you lives that seem better than yours. You never see behind the scenes, just the bright stage. Then it starts to compare, and inevitably feels smaller. Marketing plants in you wishes that never existed. An object that yesterday meant nothing today seems essential. The culture of haste transforms rest into sin and silence into a waste of time. Who is not running, who is not producing, who is not showing results, is seen as failed. And you, afraid of being behind, accelerates even more. But accelerating does not mean moving on. It is always possible to be moving, and at the same time be completely lost. Like someone spinning in circles, tired, sweaty, but without leaving the place. This is how much of humanity lives today. Running, producing, showing, buying, posting, and at the same time, feeling more empty than ever. The price of this lie is high. Anxiety, stress, insomnia, identity crises, depression, people surrounded by things, but lonely, digitally connected, but isolated emotionally, rich in information but poor of wisdom. And even in the face of this internal collapse, they continue to believe that the solution is more. As someone lost in the desert who drinks salt water thinking he will satisfy his thirst, you may recognize yourself. Maybe he's deep down that he is stuck with a routine he has not chosen, stuck with expectations that are not his own, stuck to a lifestyle that never brought you peace. You may have realized that the more you run, the more distant you get from yourself. This perception is painful, but it is also the first step towards freedom, because only those who recognize the prison can start seeking the way out. Click the link set in the comments and download the digital ebook completely free. And the exit will never be in the more. This is the great revelation. Freedom is in the least. Less rush, less distractions, less comparisons, less masks. What imprisons is not the lack, but the excess. Excess noise, stimulus, manufactured desires, the excess of hurry, charges, repeated lies. When you start to release, something changes inside you. It is as if the air became lighter, as if life expanded. But I know, this idea scares, because giving up the more seems dangerous. It looks like you will lose something, and in a way, it really goes. It will lose illusions. It will lose chains. It will lose the meaningless race. But what you will earn in return is priceless. Inner peace, presence, clarity, freedom. Maybe right now, you are feeling this mixture of fear and curiosity. Part of you want to believe that life can be different. Another part resists, saying that it is impossible, that you cannot stop, that you need to keep running. This internal battle is natural. It happens whenever the truth begins to break an old lie. And the stronger the lie, the harder it is to let it go. But I want you to take a break. Take a deep breath. Feel the air entering and leaving, simple, silent. At this moment, you don't need anything beyond that. Neither of recognition nor of achievements, and in applause. Just breathe. Just be. This is the first crack in prison. This is the memory that life is much simpler than they made you believe. The invisible lie that imprisons humanity is not the lack of resources. It is not the lack of time. It is not the lack of opportunities. It is the belief that we will only be happy when we have more. As long as we believe it, we will continue to run, comparing ourselves, running out. But when we see the lie, something awakens. And this awakening is the beginning of a new journey. The question is, are you willing to face this truth? Or will you keep hiding behind the comfortable illusion? The choice is yours. Always has been. Have you noticed how things always seem to pull you into a cycle that never ends? No matter how much you fight to breathe, there is an invisible force that pushes you back into the same routine, the same hurry, the same tiredness. This strength is not just chance. It has been created, fed, and refined over decades. It is the modern, silent, and powerful system that shapes your choices without you realizing it. Look around. Everything you see was designed to keep you busy. The lighted outdoors, the filled showcases, the ads that appear on your screen even before you know what you want. They don't just sell products. They sell needs. False, manufactured needs. A new cell phone, a better car, an outfit that will change your life. But what they really sell is the feeling that you are not enough yet. Social networks amplified this lie to a level never imagined. What was supposed to be a connection tool became a distorted mirror. Each time you slide your finger through the screen, it's like looking at an improved version of lives that never existed. Rehearsed smiles, filtered bodies, edited achievements, and even knowing that this is not the reality, a part of you believes, a part of you compares, a part of you feels smaller. This is the poison. You start to measure your value by invisible metrics. How many followers do you have? How many likes your photo received? How many comments have proved that you are seen, desired, respected? But these numbers say nothing about who you are. They only feed the prison, turning you into hostage to the approval of others. Each notification that vibrates in your pocket acts as a chain. You run to look, to answer, to post, not to be forgotten. And without realizing it, he lives as a slave to a canvas. It is not just digital. The physical world also reinforces the invisible bars. The financial system, for example, offers easy credit, long installments, promises of an immediate life. But in the background, each card used is another link in the debt current. You work harder to pay, get tired more, get out more, and when finally there is another planted desire, another necessary that makes you start all over again. It is as if freedom is always postponed to tomorrow, but this tomorrow never arrives. The culture of haste is another face of this prison. Who stops for is lazy. Who slows seems to be late. Society applauds those who do not sleep, who does not rest, who lives in the run. But no one realizes that this run has no destination. It is a marathon without finish line. What should be life has become survival. And survival in this model is not worthy. It is just repetition. There are also invisible expectations. Marrying up to a certain age, having children, winning their own home, being promoted, showing others that you are winning. These goals are often not yours. They were given to you as if they were universal truths. But the consequence is living, trying to fit into a mold that was not made to your heart. It's like putting on shoes that don't serve. You can even walk, but every step hurts. And this is where prison becomes more cruel, because it is not only external. She enters you. You start to charge yourself more than anyone else. You watch your routine yourself, criticize your flaws, requires results. The system no longer has to arrest you anymore, because you have already turned into your own jailer. This is the central point. Prison is invisible because it operates at the mind level. As long as you believe you need to compare yourself, prove yourself, show off, get into debt, run without stopping, you will be stuck. The modern world does not force iron currents in you. He only plants ideas. And with these ideas, you create the chains yourself. Perhaps at this point, you are realizing how so many areas of your life have been shaped by this system. Perhaps you are remembering impulse shopping, clear nights rolling the feed, feelings of insufficiency when looking at others. You may realize that much of your tiredness doesn't come from what you do, but what you believe you need to do. This perception is painful because it shows how much manipulated, but it is also liberating because once you see prison, you can no longer ignore it. And here's the revelation. The modern system will never stop. It will always create new desires, new comparisons, new metrics. If you expect the world to change to feel free, it will never be free. The change needs to start within you. You need to start with the courage to say, I don't need more. It is not simple. Breaking with invisible arrest requires discipline and faith. Faith that you can live in another way. Faith that life is not only running, but also silence, which is not only achievement, but also presence, which is not just numbers, but essence. The second step of your journey begins now, to recognize that the world around was made to arrest you, and yet choose freedom. Click the link set in the comments and download the digital ebook completely free. There is a moment in life when, even surrounded by noise, you begin to hear something different. It doesn't come from outside. It does not come from television, neither social networks nor the voices that the world projects in you. Come from within. It is a whisper, almost imperceptible, like the sound of a river running in the distance. This whisper is its essence, and though drowned out of its hurry and noise, he never disappeared. For years, you may have believed that happiness would be found outside of you. You ran after achievements, sought recognition, struggled to show results. But even reaching some of these goals, the feeling of emptiness continued. This is because nothing out can fill what is from within. Silence, however paradoxical as it may seem, is the space where true life blooms. The modern world is afraid of silence. He prefers constant noise, endless notifications, stimuli that won't let you think. Because in silence you start seeing yourself, and seeing yourself means facing wounds, insecurities, truths that were hidden under layers of distraction. The system doesn't want you to do that. He prefers you to keep running because while it runs, does not question. But when you stop, everything changes. Imagine yourself sitting in a quiet place, without screens, without people, without charges. Only you and your breath. At first, silence seems uncomfortable. The mind screams, tries to drag you back to the old habits. She says, you're wasting time. There are urgent things to do. But if you resist and remain, you begin to perceive something miraculous. A subtle peace, a silent presence that has always been there. It's like taking the dust off a mirror and finally seeing the reflection. This is the forgotten power of silence. It reconnects you to what really matters. It dissolves the illusion that you need more. He shows that deep down, you are already complete. That nothing needs to be added so that you are worthy, whole, enough. The ancient sages knew that. Monks, philosophers, spiritual masters, all taught the value of silence and contemplation. They knew that the human mind is like a busy lake. While the waters are turbulent, nothing can be seen in the background. But when the surface calms down, clarity arises. Today, however, we were trained to keep this lake in constant storm, and that's why we forget who we really are. By meeting silence again, you discover a liberating truth. Life is not something you need to achieve, but something you need to feel. The present moment does not need improvements. He already contains everything. Breathing, the heat of the sun, the movement of the heart, the simple fact of existing. Silence reveals that happiness is not a distant point, but a presence that can be accessed now. But beware, silence does not mean absence of action. It does not mean abandoning everything and isolate yourself from the world. It means acting from a different, deeper place. It means not to be a slave to haste, but to choose when to accelerate and when to stop. It means not depending on the eyes of others, but walking in peace with who you are. When you start cultivating silence, even for a few minutes a day, something inside you transforms. What seemed before urgent loses strength. What once seemed essential proves to be irrelevant. The chains begin to loosen. You find that you don't have to answer everything immediately. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You don't always have to be running. Freedom begins small, but grows every moment of presence. This reunion with oneself is the first concrete step to escape the invisible arrest, because no one can control a mind that has learned to rest in silence. No advertising, no algorithm, no system can manipulate someone who has found an unshakable source of peace within them. This is the true rebellion, to disconnect from the outer noise and hear the inner voice. Maybe right now you feel resistance. Maybe your mind is saying, this is impossible for me, my life is too busy, I don't have time for silence. But this is another lie. Silence doesn't require hours. It can start in moments. A minute of conscious breathing, a long look at the sky, a coffee taken without haste. What matters is not the amount of time, but the quality of presence. And gradually this space grows. You get used to being with yourself without distractions. You realize that life doesn't have to be filled from outside because it is already full inside. And then, what once seemed prison begins to dissolve. In silence, you find what the modern world tries to hide in every way, that you are already free. Always has been. He just believed the lie that he wasn't. There is a moment in life when you realize that the greatest revolution does not happen outside, but inside you. It is at this moment that the courage to look at the world arise and realize that it is designed to imprison and that you don't have to follow this chain. Living against the tide is not easy. It is painful because it means questioning habits, expectations, standards, and truths that have been cultivated since you were a child. It means looking inside and accepting that what the world has taught about success, happiness, and personal value can be an illusion. The courage to live against the chain begins with small choices, silent, almost imperceptible, but that carry a gigantic weight. It may be deciding to turn off your phone for a few hours, refuse a meeting that makes no sense, say no when everyone expects you to say yes. It can be choosing to walk alone instead of getting lost in crowds, or simply observing, listening, feeling, without having to act. These choices seem small, but they carry silent power. They break the cycle that the world wants you to follow. The modern system celebrates constant action, but not any action. He celebrates the action that generates profit, visibility, and social validation. Each notification, every incentive, every desire made is designed to keep you run, so you never have time to look at yourself. Living against the chain means noticing this gear and deciding not to participate in it, even if it is just for a moment. It is a silent rebellion, almost imperceptible but deep. Simplicity is the most revolutionary act in this context. While everyone accumulates, you learn to release. While everyone seeks more, you learn to be content. It is not about renouncing the world but choosing what really matters. It is realizing that internal peace is worth more than any external achievement. It is understanding that life does not need to be filled with objects, comparisons, or approvals. True wealth is in the presence, the moment you live, in the silence that is created amid chaos. The courage to live against the current also requires authenticity. It means stopping molding to what others expect. It means looking inside and listening to the voice itself, the one that was often drowned out by the external noise. It can be uncomfortable because going against social standards generates criticism, judgments, curious looks. But freedom is never comfortable. It requires courage. It requires breaking with what no longer serves you. It is at this point that spirituality becomes a powerful ally. This is not a religion, but of perception. Realizing that every conscious action, every choice of slowing down, every moment of silence is a step towards its own freedom. Spirituality is the light that illuminates the current, allowing you to see the invisible dangers, the deviations, the traps. It gives you strength not to get lost in hurry, distraction, incessant search for validation. And the more you practice, the more the world loses power over you. Notifications become soundless sounds. Comparisons cease to hurt. External expectations lose strength. The mind, once restless and overwhelmed, finds spaces of clarity. You realize that living against the current does not mean being alone. It means being whole. It means choosing each movement with conscience, not out of obligation, but for the sake of yourself. Maybe you still feel afraid, fear of judgment, fear of losing opportunities, fear of disappointing others. This fear is natural, but it is also a sign that you are doing something important, because what is worth it is rarely easy. The courage to break free from the modern system demands to face this fear, embrace it, and move on, even if the way seems lonely. The life the world sells is seductive but illusory. It promises excess happiness, but delivers anxiety, promises freedom, but creates invisible chains. Living against the current is not just a practical choice, but an act of spiritual resistance. Each small deceleration gesture, every decision to simplify, every moment of conscious presence, is a silent rupture with illusion. It's like planting a seed and freedom in a solo saturated with lies. And when you realize that, something changes deeply. You are no longer hostage to routine, comparisons, expectations. You start dancing at your own pace. The current that once seemed impossible to face now bends to his conscious presence. Life, once suffocating, becomes expansive. What seemed heavy becomes light. What seemed urgent becomes irrelevant. And you find that true courage is not in overcoming the world, but in meeting yourself. In the end, living against the current is not about confronting everyone around you. It is about confronting yourself, the old standards and false truths you carried. It is an invitation to exist in full, conscious and present way. It is the first real key to the freedom you seek. A freedom that does not depend on what the world offers, but what you choose to cultivate within you. Now you have noticed the lie, saw the invisible arrest, felt the power of silence, and found courage to live against the chain. But freedom is not just a state of consciousness. It manifests itself in daily life, in simple gestures, conscious choices that shape each day of your life. This is where transformation is no longer theory and becomes practical, real, tangible. Living fully means taking responsibility for every moment. It means realizing that no one can do this for you. Society offers rules, expectations, ready paths, but you have found that these paths often lead to an empty place. So creating your own route requires courage and attention. It is not empty rebellion, it is active presence. It is consciously deciding what your time, your energy, and your affection deserve. The first practice is attention to the present. Each breath, each step, each gesture can be felt in depth. Instead of running from one task to another, you observe, feel, realize. Breakfast is no longer just food, and it becomes a ritual. A conversation is no longer words, and becomes genuine connection. An outdoor ride is no longer a displacement, and becomes contemplation. This is the power to live in the now. Transform the ordinary into extraordinary, the passenger eternal. Click the link set in the comments and download the digital ebook totally for free. The second practice is detachment. It does not mean abandoning everything, but consciously choosing what deserves space in your life. Detach objects, useless habits, toxic people, external expectations. Detach from more, the world promises, and realize that you already have enough to fully exist. Each time you let out, you feel silent relief, as if an invisible chain fell from your shoulders. It is in this space that peace begins to grow. The third practice is self-observation, looking at yourself without judgment, understanding your standards, recognizing your emotions and understanding your motivations. This inner look creates real freedom, because the biggest prison is not in the world, but within you. When you observe yourself with attention and compassion, you understand that you do not need to follow the tax imposed. You start to choose your actions from consciousness, not the habit or the external pressure. Another essential practice is to cultivate moments of silence daily. Even if it's just a few minutes, these moments work as anchors, remembering that you can always return to presence. Silence is not empty. He is full of life. It reconnects you with its essence, with the nature of time, with what is really important. Those who learn to meet in silence are never lost in the external currents. Living free also means redefining what is successful. The modern world measures value in numbers, status, and external achievements, but you have found that true wealth is at the depth of experience, in the clarity of mind, in the serenity of the heart. Success is living aligned with its essence, not external expectations. It is having the courage to say no, to simplify, to choose peace instead of haste. And perhaps the most important thing is to share this freedom, not imposing, but with example. Who lives conscious inspires without having to convince. The simple act of existing in full and present way creates a silent effect that touches all around. Freedom spreads through the attentive look, the sincere smile, the genuine presence. You become a point of light in a world used to distraction. In everyday life, all this translates into small, powerful choices. Not automatically react to a provocation. Respond instead of reacting. Devote time to those who matter, without haste or obligation. Contemplate sunrise without cell phone. Write your thoughts to know yourself. Walk without destination. Laugh for no reason. Each conscious action is a stream, a firm step towards inner freedom. This full life is not perfect. The world still offers distractions, comparisons, pressures, but you have learned that these forces have power only if you allow it. The freedom one does not depend on the world. It depends on you. It is a state of being cultivated, strengthening and expanding at every moment of presence, attention, and conscious choice. And in the end, you understand something fundamental. Life has never been about achieving more, accumulating more, or pleasing more. Life is about existing fully, feeling deeply and consciously choosing. It is about freeing themselves from the invisible currents that others have created and walking with lightness, clarity, and serenity. The true revolution happens inside. When you decide to live like this, not only escape modern prison, you turn your own existence into an act of art, love, and freedom. And the final question, which closes the cycle of your journey, is simple but deep. Will you keep believing in the illusion of more, or will choose the fullness of every moment that is already yours? The freedom you discovered is not just an internal state. It expands, touches everything around, and transforms the way you interact with the world. But there is a silent challenge: to remain righteous as everything around tries to pull him back to prison. This is where many give up, confusing presence with passivity, simplicity with weakness. But who really wakes up learns to navigate the world without getting lost. Living free means seeing the world clearly and acting consciously. It is not a matter of escaping obligations or responsibilities, but of choosing how and when it is involved. Each action becomes deliberate, every decision loaded with meaning. You realize that you no longer need to react to everything, nor cling to what is no longer good. Freedom gives perspective. It allows you to see what really matters and ignore what distraction is. This vision transforms even the little things. Surface conversations stop draining you. Toxic relationships become optional. Irrelevant commitments dissipate. Every moment lived with attention and purpose becomes a small victory over invisible arrest. It is in this space that life becomes light, full of meaning. Freedom also reveals responsibility. Now you realize that everything you consume, says or does, it carries energy. Each choice, from the food that eats to the word that speaks, influences you and those around you. Conscious life is not lonely. It is connected to a larger web, and this conscience turns fear into power, anxiety and calm, distraction and presence. Another essential point is the creation of rituals that reinforce presence and simplicity. It can be meditated daily, write a diary, observe nature, practice gratitude, walk without destination. These rituals are not just habits, but anchors that keep you rooted in inner freedom. Even when the world tries to drag it back into the current, the detachment, which began as internal practice, now manifests externally. You learn not to depend on approvals, validation, or external achievements to feel value. This posture creates lightness. What was once suffocating, charges, comparisons, expectations, no longer has power. You do not abandon the world, but start dancing with it at your own pace. And then the true magic arises. The presence begins to have an effect on others. Close people feel their different energy, calmer, more full. You don't have to convince anyone. You don't have to show anything. Your freedom naturally inspires. Timely, you create a safe and luminous space around you, where consciousness and silence become contagious. Even challenges and adversities, which once seemed prisons, are now seen as opportunities for practice. Every difficult moment becomes an invitation to remain conscious, to choose calm instead of anxiety, the presence instead of fear. The world keeps trying to test your chains, but you have learned to navigate without getting lost. Full freedom, then, is neither escape nor isolation. It is a harmonious dance between you and life, where nothing needs to be conquered so that everything is felt. It is realizing that internal peace is a fixed point in the midst of external waves. And by living like this, you discover that not only have escaped the lie that imprisons humanity, but also found the ability to create meaning in every moment, to live with purpose and lightness, to turn each day into expression of your own truth. In the end, it all comes down to a continuous choice: to follow the illusion of more, or live fully in now. With every conscious breath, with each deliberate act, you reaffirm the freedom you have gained, and life, which once seemed heavy and suffocating, becomes dance art, a silent celebration of existence. If you felt even for a few minutes the weight of the lie that the modern world makes us believe, know that this journey is just beginning. In the next video, let's dive even deeper into how your mind and the system around you try to keep you stuck, and what simple and powerful steps you can give to regain your freedom concretely. Don't leave. Click and continue this awakening journey with The Secret Modern Life is Hiding from You That Can Free Your Soul. Click the screen now.